Yesterday, 20 years after being removed from power in Afghanistan, the Taliban militia swept back into power. President Biden had announced in April that American troops would withdraw from the country by September 11th. He later moved that date up to August 31st, and most of the troops had already left. He insisted that the Afghan government and military, with financial support from the United States of America, would have to defend the urban areas from the Taliban. But since the announcement, the Taliban rolled right across the Afghan military, even though the Afghan troops outnumber the Taliban 300,000 troops to 75,000.
What?
Yes. Yesterday, Afghanistan's President Ashraf Ghani, he left Afghanistan. I don't know how to say goodbye in Afghan or Pushtan. I'm not sure the language there, but he basically said adios.
Wow.
Yeah. And he decided to leave to prevent bloodshed. Bloodshed he was trying to prevent was his own. So he signed off, he ran, he said, long live Afghanistan. Now, to some people, they say this reminds them of the fall of Saigon in 1975 in the wake of the Vietnam War, as helicopters circled the U.S. Embassy as its diplomatic personnel were under evacuation orders. But U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said, this is not Saigon. We went to Afghanistan 20 years ago with one mission, and that mission was to deal with the folks who attacked us on 9/11, and we succeeded in that mission. The White House has ordered 6,000 troops back to Afghanistan just to help with the final evacuation. It is America's longest war. It began with the Taliban's refusal after 9/11 to hand over Osama bin Laden, who was hiding in Afghanistan with the help of the Taliban. And as a result of that, Republican President George W. Bush ordered an attack on Afghanistan to go find Osama bin Laden and bring him to justice. Right. The United States took over Afghanistan. Osama bin Laden eventually escaped into the mountains surrounding Afghanistan and Pakistan. And for those who remember, it was Democratic President Obama found Osama bin Laden, a lot of O's in there,
right.
Osama bin Laden
yes.
in Pakistan, and Bush troops went in the middle of the night and killed him. Since then, this invasion, 2,400 service members, 3,800 American contractors, 1,100 other allied service members, 66,000 Afghan national military, 47,000 civilians, all dead, looking for Osama bin Laden, and then ultimately during this war. The price tag, guess what this price tag was? The cost to the United States over this 20-year war was $2.26 trillion, including the cost of rebuilding the Afghan government and training its military. What a shame. What a shame. President Biden, he went on television this afternoon after he was getting a little pummeled by the pumpkin. It was the pumpkin, actually, who made the deal to leave Afghanistan, left the Taliban in power. This would have happened no matter what.
Right.
Whether Trump withdrew, whether it was Biden. As a matter of fact, this war has gone on through 4 presidents because every president up to President Biden was too big of a chicken to actually withdraw.
Wow.
And just kept this ongoing indefinitely. You see there a video of a U.S. military transport plane today trying to take off from Afghanistan with presumably Americans on it. A lot of Afghan people trying to get on that plane to escape the Taliban, was not allowing the military transport plane to take off. People are literally hanging on the side of the plane. I don't know whether or not that plane actually ended up taking off. There were 7 people supposedly before we came on air that died at the airport already, whether it's because they got run over, they got shot. I don't know how people died, but at least 7 people died today at the airport. But really, it's 4 presidents, 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats, who they just kept this war going forever. And at some point, President Biden, I think rightfully said, it's got to come to an end.
Yeah.
It's not serving a purpose. We're spending money. We're losing lives. It's just an actual shame that this whole war was ultimately for nothing. We went in to drive the Taliban out so that terrorists presumably would not have a safe haven like Osama bin Laden, to use Afghanistan as a base to cause havoc not only in the United States but around the world. The Taliban was defeated very easily by the US military, but they were never disbanded. And then when President Trump made a deal to leave, he did not also make, as part of that deal, disbanding the Taliban. And ultimately, President Biden, Trump, Barack Obama, even George W. Bush, they all knew that when the military was going to leave, it was up to the Afghan people to defend themselves. They didn't know whether or not they would be able to or not, but at some point, how much money can you put into a country? What we've learned is the United States can never build a country.
Right.
We're good at destroying things. All right, military is very good at destroying stuff. Okay, you want some stuff destroyed, you call the U.S. military. Okay, you want to build something, the U.S. military can't build nothing. They're good at destroying things, but not building anything. So you want to build something, people who are living there got to build. What we've learned time and time and time again, every time the U.S. military, whether it's Iraq, whether it's Afghanistan, you name the country, we've never built anything anywhere. Up to the people who live there to do it or not do it. President Biden, he said this afternoon,
how many more generations of America's daughters and sons would you have me send to fight Afghanistan's civil war when Afghan troops will not?
Yeah, he said, when I came into office, I inherited a deal that President Trump negotiated with the Taliban. He left the Taliban in the strongest position militarily since 2001. He imposed a May 1st, 2021 deadline on U.S. forces shortly before he left office. He also drew down U.S. forces to 2,500 soldiers when Biden showed up. There was only a cold reality of either following through on the agreement to withdraw our forces or escalating conflict further, sending thousands more American troops back into combat in Afghanistan, lurching the United States into a third decade of war in Afghanistan. There's no right answer.
Right.
President Biden said there was never supposed to have been nation building. Our only vital national interest in Afghanistan remains today what it always has been, preventing a terrorist attack on American homeland. And by the way, I don't know if now what's going to happen with terrorism. I mean, we've been pretty safe from terrorism for the last 20 years. Is the Taliban going to allow terrorists to reconstitute in Afghanistan now? Like pre 9/11? I don't know. I don't know. All I know is it's a shame that $2 trillion, imagine what $2 trillion could have done for people here in the United States or anywhere in the world. And it's a shame that people lost their lives. And after 20 years, there's absolutely nothing to show for it.
That's wild.
That
after
is what
20 years.
That's what the shame is to me. Afghanistan's still in the news. The Taliban is consolidating power in Afghanistan. They're going to be running the show there for a while. More refugees are expected to evacuate the country. The International Organization for Migration estimates that since international troops started withdrawing in May, at least 30,000 people have been fleeing Afghanistan. Since then, since the start of this year, more than 400,000 Afghans have been forced from their homes and displaced. The United States reportedly plans to admit 30,000 refugees on special immigrant visas. Some of those refugees are already being flown out of the country. Germany and Great Britain also, I have read, is also going to accept some refugees as well.
Okay.
A bipartisan group of senators is urging the Biden administration to create a specific humanitarian parole category for Afghan women, including leaders, journalists, activists, security forces, and others who are at risk in the wake of the Taliban's takeover of Afghanistan. We already talked about yesterday that you can already apply, even though there is no special category for women and journalists in Afghanistan and children, you can apply for humanitarian parole even if there is no special category. You just have to explain what your particular situation is. I guess if they make a special category, it would make it more newsworthy. It would make more people aware that they're able to file for this humanitarian parole, but you could already do it. 3 Republican senators, Bill Cassidy of Louisiana, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, and Jim Inhofe of Oklahoma have joined Democrats in signing and requesting the Biden administration to do such a thing. Earlier this month, the State Department announced the creation of a Priority 2 designation within its refugee program for certain Afghans who have worked in the United States but do not qualify for special immigrant visas. But those refugees have to apply for refugee status in a third country. You can't apply for a refugee status within Afghanistan. So right now, if you have family in Afghanistan, they have not yet been evacuated, and you are concerned for them, there are 3 things you can do. 1, if you can get them to a third country, or they can get to a third country, yes, they can apply for refugee status. This Priority 2 designation by the State Department for certain Afghans who worked with the United States but didn't qualify for special immigrant visa status, and others as well. You don't necessarily have to work for the United States of America to apply for refugee status. You can do humanitarian parole. Even though there is no category for humanitarian parole for Afghans, anyone could apply for humanitarian parole. And of course, there is military parole. If you have a relative in the United States who already got their special immigrant visa and has connections or contacts still with the military, they can ask their contact in the military to make a special application for their family members. It's called military parole, and the military actually files it directly with the Department of Homeland Security. Thanks for watching. For more Brad Show Live, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.